I'll use this piece, Arietta in C major, by Clementi, from I think the level 3 book in Masterwork Classics. The other example, the Sonatina, is in level 6. This is from level 3, Arietta in C major. And this is we can use this piece as an example of different interpretations of how and when to use the pedal. So basically, think of pedaling and the use of pedal in the piano as affecting the dryness or wetness of the sound. Okay, so you can have a very dry sound, you can have a very wet sound, and you can have everything in between. Everything in between. So this is where subjectivity, your own opinion, your own interpretation is there. There's no right or wrong necessarily. Let me play this piece, and I will try to play it as literally to the printed score as possible. So here there's no indication for pedal. There are just a few slurs over some of the eighth notes. All the quarter notes are not given slurs. So I'm going to take it as everything should be detached unless there's a slur. Okay, so this is one possible interpretation, maybe a very strict interpretation based on the score, because the score doesn't have much. It just has a few slurs. Okay, so let me switch to the other scene here. So you can see my hands. So I'll just try to play it very strictly according to the score. Okay, I'll do my best. There we go. So it was very dry, but extremely clear, very clear, very dry, very clear. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. So now let me do another approach, and this time I will try to go to the extreme and try to play it very wet. Okay? I'll try to play it well, but I will play it as wet as possible. So I'm going to use lots of pedal, and it's going to sound a lot more, thick and rich, and maybe even a little blurry at times, perhaps. But let's listen. There we go. So even though I was kind of playing detached in some places, like my left hand was detached, because of the pedal, everything was very sustained. And if you're listening very closely, you would have heard that there was some blur. There may have been some places where it sounded a bit too blurry for your taste. And it's important that you develop a sensitivity to the difference between when it's dry and when it's blurry. Now, the question is, when is it too blurry, where it's a bad kind of blur, it's too much? Sometimes that's a matter of opinion, okay? So you'll find pianists that tend to use the pedal more. They just tend to sound a little bit more muddy overall. But if they do it well, it should sound pretty good and not extremely muddy also. So this is where there's a balance that is needed. So that was a bit more of an extreme approach. Maybe you heard some places where it was a bit muddy. So we'll go a little bit more into the piece to look at some of the techniques of pedaling, and also in terms of interpreting the music.